Yeah, he's going to do, but I think that's important to recognise as well when you start off. Unfortunately, even today, I still believe there's a little bit of ageism, where people think you should be working cheaper because you're younger. It's just mentality that hopefully will start to change as people of generations change, educated on that sort of stuff. But I do still believe that if you've got a really successful company and you can offer the same service and better on that service and also give a discount, if you can maintain that, then you can put your prices up as you get on. I think a lot of people's vision is to... oh yeah, I'm not doing it for that. Kind of, how can I put it without being like patronising? Some people, I think, value the worth, but they have to understand to get worth, you have to do something that's attractive to the person that you're trying to impress. And a lot of it is down on price. And I think that's probably what Joe did. He went in and delivered. He probably walked out thinking, oh shit, how the hell am I going to do this? Because I've gone in there, like you said, it looks like he owns at Wolf of Wall Street type of thing. And he's literally then gone home, chucked his clothes on, and then he's out then doing these certificates. And to make it pay that, he would probably have to do 10 a day. So 10 a day, depending on where the travelling is and all the communication. So I'm guessing, he really grafted. But ultimately, what he did, of what I've picked up there, is it's paid off. Because obviously, as we continue and talk through your journey, it'll come all into play, I'm sure. And you'll tell me more about how it all works. So once he got that contract, and he started to work with him. Could you tell me a little bit more about your relationship, how you two bonded from that point?
Yeah, absolutely. So the place that I had worked and Joe had got the contract for was a place called Woodcock Homes. So it was a small independent estate agency that in Peterborough was kind of one of the big players in reality. And Joe started doing the gas work, the plumbing work for this company, at which point they were having issues with their current contractor that would do the majority of the maintenance, to the point where one day the main contractor decided that he'd had enough and didn't want to continue to work with the company. I have no idea why. I was not involved at all, but just that so happened to happen, at which point the owner of Woodcock Homes contacted Joe, and I can't remember the timeline, but it was certainly only months that Joe had been working with us at that company, that the owner contacted him and decided or offered him the contract for the entire portfolio to maintain it across the board, from plumbing all the way through to building work. So, Joe being the forward-thinking, and passionate business owner that he is, he absolutely said yes without any means to be able to do it, but said yes. And so from there, I started, naturally, I tend to I'm a conscientious person, so it's easy for me to...
You gravitated.
To rise up the ranks in something. I began to be somebody that was dependent on in that company, I suppose, and started overseeing some of the refurbishments and stuff, at which point Joe and I really started working together. Like I would have a house that would need refurbishment, and Joe would be the company that would go in and get it done for us. And that's where we really started our professional working relationship together, trying to navigate these refurbs.
Interesting. So, everybody, not everybody should say, but a lot of people know Joe's background. He won The Apprentice, etc. He set up Invergas, I think it was doing was it about 600,000 when he started at...
I think significantly less, actually. I think it was about 300,000 pounds in turnover. And that was fundamentally through a handful of property management companies in Peterborough.
Brilliant. So where I got 600,000 from, maybe I'm completely wrong there, was when he dropped Improgas, it was Improgas, sorry. Dropped Improgas, and then he went on The Apprentice. Was that about 600,000 then at that point? Or was
I can't remember the numbers, if I'm entirely honest, but in between that is probably an important part. So, Joe and I worked together on this for, back then it felt like years and years, but it was probably only, 6 months to a year type thing. And we did gravitate towards each other, and funnily enough, we were both interested in property. And at the time, there's a company, still is a company, called Progressive Property that delivered. There was a Peterborough-based company headed up by Rob Moore and Mark Homer, and they used to run Facebook community groups, and they probably still do, I don't know, but we, both of us were in these groups, and I would see Joe commenting on all the posts all the time, asking questions, and I reached out to him. I said, and we'd developed a friendship as well, kind of, I suppose, slightly outside of work or joint with work. That when we worked at Woodcock Homes, there was a lot of parties, there was a lot of corporate events that we would go to, and obviously Joe was there, I was there, and we had a good friendship base within that company, and so there was this social connection there as well, I suppose. And I reached out to Joe afterwards. I actually left Woodcock Homes. Joe continued to do work with those. I actually, funnily enough, went and worked for Progressive Property.
For a while, yeah.
For a while, for about a 6-month period, I left Woodcock Homes, went to work for Progressive Property because I was actually headhunted to go and work there because the one of the founding members of the property portfolio of Woodcock Homes went and developed the portfolio for Progressive Property. And he poached me to come and work with him there, of which I thought, again, excellent idea. These guys are driving Lamborghinis and Ferraris and stuff, and I want to learn more about property. So again, focus on the education, went and worked there, did that for a period of time, and actually decided that I'm ready to do my own thing. So I left and kind of got into luxury house building, funnily enough, for a period of time where I was focused on project management and overseeing private developments of kind of luxury home builds around the Cambridgeshire area. And again, I just really dabbled in that in reality. But around that period of time, I reached out to Joe and said, do you want to start our own other property business thing? And he said yes. So we used to meet up on...
Does he ever say no?
I don't think so. I don't think I've ever heard Joe say no to an opportunity. But yeah, so we used to, and again, bearing in mind, we were youngsters at this point. We didn't know what we were doing.
Give an indication of how old you were.
22. Yeah. 22. Like, we didn't know what we were doing in truth. And I used to go over to his on a Tuesday evening. We used to get a KFC, and we would just used to
thrash it out,
talk about starting our own business. And the business was we decided it was going to be a rent to rent business, which I think is relatively, a famous strategy these days that's taught. But, back then, all those years ago, we were running it, and we were looking at logos and names and business cards and all the kind of the stuff that now you realize just it's unimportant at those inception. It's fun, but unimportant at that inception stage in business. In business, at that inception stage, what you absolutely need to focus on is revenue generation, is sales, it's go out and start actually delivering something to somebody. But, we spent probably months just deciding what the logo would look like. And trying to find a name that didn't exist already, and we had to come up with and incorporate on Company's House a company called the Property People Team Limited, because the Property People had already been taken. So we incorporated that company and managed to secure ourselves over a period of time 5 or 6 HMO properties that was cash flowing really well. We were making decent money from doing it, and all was well and good. And the plan was Joe would continue with Impra home maintenance as it was at the time. I would continue with the Property People and my luxury home building project management at the time. But Joe wanted to apply to go on to The Apprentice in 2015. And in 2015, he got accepted to go on to The Apprentice. And obviously left Impra home maintenance, of which I wasn't involved at all. Like, there was conversations a couple of times where I'd maybe come on board with that company, but I never really wanted to get into that game at that stage. And anyway, he went on to The Apprentice, won The Apprentice in November or December 2015. We had a conversation over Christmas about me jumping on board and coming and working with the team, the new team. And by January 2016, I was in that company, employed by Impra Home Maintenance, as it was at the time, and working with Lord Alan Sugar's team.
That must have been a little bit intimidating, I suppose, at the beginning, going in there. I don't know if you probably didn't find it intimidating, but or did you? I don't know. When you walked in and you've got these people that are working and you've recognised the name, the brand, Sugar, basically. What was your thoughts on that? Were you like, whoa?
Again, almost through ignorance, I suppose, that of just not really having any experience that I wasn't intimidated. To me, Joe getting the accolade of having been, of winning The Apprentice is kind of rubber stamped our credibility and approval. It was almost like, this is my business partner. He's been on The Apprentice and has won it. We're the best business people that there possibly could be. And that was pure ignorance, on my part. And the truth is, the Lord Alan Sugar's team were excellent in terms of our education, because we didn't know what we were doing. We were, I was somebody that absolutely backed myself from an operational perspective. I take on all the systems and processes. I can easily make this work without, in truth, much experience at all. I was good with a computer. I was good with a spreadsheet. But the truth is, I had no...
You're known for the spreadsheet.
I'm a little renowned. I'm called the spreadsheet wizard, But I could work my way around a spreadsheet and knew how to fancied myself as being able to work with some software and stuff. But the truth is, we hadn't, between us, hadn't run realistically a big business at this point. And we were working with Lord Alan Sugar's team.
That when you hit the ground, you weren't running.
Yeah, very much so. So, we learned loads from those guys, and maybe I should or shouldn't say this publicly, but we used to prep for board meetings with that team, like on the way to Loughton, which is where their HQ was. So I mean, the team, the finance team were really, really good, and we're actually kind of, I suppose, I learned the foundation of how to actually run a business from those guys. There was so much focus on, the core basic stuff that now we teach today, that come from really not even knowing about it back then to being introduced to it. And they had great accountants, great FDs, and they were all over the business from day one, really, and getting us to really understand and figure out what business model we had. Because in all honesty, there wasn't one. There was and this is what we teach now. There was a demand for work that we could provide, but there was no mechanism in place to actually be able to make money. In all honesty, we could get more customers, do more work, get more busy, but we weren't making more money. And that team knew that and were helping us figure it out. And very, very quickly, we identified, the first time I ever heard of margins in truth, that there were no margins in realistically the work that we were doing. And it wasn't until a company called HelpLink, actually, and again, after winning
he was a key player, him, to be fair, the guy who set that up.
Yeah.
He ended up setting up Box, didn't he? He was very, very shrewd, very clever, very intelligent. Mm-hmm. What he achieved in the industry was quite amazing, really. And I'm sure he'll pop up again. But yeah, when HelpLink came along, just talk a little bit about that, because that's got my ears pricked up a little bit, that has. So, I mean, the story with that and around that is that we were busy. We were employing people. We were running a business, and this was over really a few months a period. But we realised that realistically, it's hard to make money in that game. And when we looked at it, when we were told by Lord Alan Sugar's team, this is what you need to focus on, the profit margins. Look at the business model. What type of services are you offering? What type of products are you delivering? We looked at it, and we were taking on a few boilers, and all of the money that we made were in the boilers that we sold. And that was a fractional amount of work that we were doing in comparison to everything else. And we looked at that. And back then everyone wanted to work with us. We were having people throwing sponsorship deals at us and giving us vans, giving us uniform, giving us contracts. And again, as ever with Joe, saying yes to everything. And HelpLink was one of those companies, and they came along, decided that we would be a good company to partner with to do the installations for them. Similar to a boxed model now, in truth. The margins in it were, frankly, non-existent on a labour basis only. But we obviously said yes, and they come in and basically showed us the blueprint of how to install boilers. And we said, we're just going to do this ourselves. Like, that's where all the money is. That's how that's how we've made our money. One of the biggest. Let's get rid of all of this and just focus on this and make money in that way. And that's what we did. And I suppose from there, the rest is history. We managed to, once we'd got it right, we grew that company nationally.
You know, we had insane sales growth. We employed a whole host of people. We had a big HQ in Peterborough. We, you know, did the whole bit, made a hell of a lot of mistakes along the way and learned a lot of things. But, you know, we worked tirelessly on that company from the very beginning. It was day and night. It was early mornings and
hours a week.
Oh, you know, 80 plus easily, getting into three digits oftentimes. I mean, we would, you know, early days, it would be, you know, us and a handful of the core guys, just, you know, me, Joe, and a couple of others in the office until midnight, trying to find an installation for the next day to make sure that our schedule was filled. That's how hard we were working. And, you know, I remember Joe used to sit in the office and try and make sure that surveyors were booked out, making sure that, bums on seats, making sure that we were actively able to sell to people. And, it was an intense time, and you know, accelerated education happens when you're forced into it. You know, we were doing a lot of things incorrectly and a lot of things wrong, but we were learning a hell of a lot because we were just doing so much. And that was a wild time for us. That was a wild time.